Hi FlossTube Stitchers. Let's get right into the vintage bee crafts that I promised you in the title of this video. It wasn't what I originally planned to do today, but I kept running across things that kind of made a theme, and so I decided to put it all together and show you all at the same time. The first one is a cute little stuffed pillow done on 16 count natural Heatherfield, which has since been discontinued, with the called for colors on the chart. And my stitching friend and customer, Darlene, who moved away probably 20 years ago, she stitched this for me probably because it was a free chart that we were passing out, and she also knew I loved bee things because we were in a stitch group together. So it's called Beehive. It's by Prairie Schooler, and the copyright date on the chart is 1998. This is a freebie from Witchelt Imports, so I can show it to you. I'm going to start including this with mail order packages in June, because I already had a plan for May. But if you want it before or after June, just mention it in your order, email, whatever. It's Prairie Schooler Beehive. All right, so that's that. It was a model for a while. I may have taken it down when the Heatherfield was discontinued, or I may have taken it down when we moved because I could have temporarily misplaced the free chart. And then it just ended up at home and I kind of forgot about it. It's hanging on a little display in a hallway. And I came across the free chart recently. So I thought, oh yay, I have the original. Now I can make good, clear copies of it again and use that in orders. Okay, then the next is this little pillow done on, I can't remember the name of the fabric, but it was a permanent linen because it's the stiffer. And I thought that would work really well in a tuck pillow because it doesn't wrinkle that easily. It doesn't get soft and move around a lot. So I thought that would work. This was one of those pillows that I provided the fabric to the seamstress and she made us these tuck pillows. And I was really surprised to find that this wasn't a free chart like I had labeled it in the bee video last year, because usually I save, these pillows for free charts because it made a really easy, kit to make up. But I ran across the chart recently when I was cleaning out some boxes in my craft room, and it's actually the littlest design on a bigger chart called Buzzy by Just My Imagination. Now they have theirs, I don't remember, they did it on 30 count, so that's not too much smaller. I think mine's 28, but they put it in a really tiny, tiny little tuck pillow from Old Colonial Designs. I know they still make the tiny frames. I don't know if they still make the pillows. I should check into that. I have a feeling they didn't have them like at market recently. I only noticed the frames. But anyway, I haven't stitched this yet. And I think now I'm kind of inspired to stitch it using different colors. I'm thinking of perhaps using the colors from the Primrose Cottage bee series or other bee things that I'm currently working on. This was done on a 10 count fabric using watercolors. And although stitching with watercolors was really popular for a while and I thought it was fun, I guess at the time I just didn't think, I don't know why I didn't think it didn't go in my house because it kind of looks like patriotic colors. But anyway, I don't know why I never stitched the bigger one. I only did the little one. Did I already say it's called Mom and Me? Because they used a little tiny one of their buttons on it. I didn't. I used a charm. Anyway, Just My Imagination was the original name for Just Another Button Company. And I don't remember the whole story, but it was somebody in the quilt industry that had the same name. And I think their little button company was getting more attention than she was. People were confusing her, maybe going to her website or calling her thinking she was the button lady. And so they either insisted or asked politely. I don't know how it went, but they ended up changing their name, and kind of tongue-in-cheek and still keeping the word just, they became Just Another Button Company. But I think that name worked out really well for them, don't you? So that's Buzzy. Maybe you'll see that flower design in one of my future. Of course, the chart's not available anymore, but I guess I'm not as worried now about stitching these older things, because a lot of times the charts can still be found in Stash Unload groups. And since that's pretty prevalent on social media, I'm like, who knows, maybe I will stitch it, maybe I won't, maybe this will be a future giveaway. We'll see. All right, so those are the two stitched things. Then we're getting to the needlework related items or adjacent items. And this poor little guy, this poor little card is so beat up. It used to be an even darker pink, and it's just faded over time. But I kept the bee pin on the card because I liked Frank's artwork. So this is from Frank Bilek at Mosey and Me. And Frank unfortunately passed in 2020. But I always kept the pins I bought from him on the cards because it also was like a free little piece of artwork from him, and it was always so fun. So anyway, I need to think about wearing this more often now that I have the magnetic things from accoutrements. I don't have to actually put the stick pin through my clothing. So either that, or I need to use this as part of a decoration on a finish. So we'll see. But anyway, that's one of the many little pieces of artwork I have from Frank. All right, and then another pin is this theorem painting. I actually can't read the lady's name on the back. You know, it's probably just a fancy way of doing her initials or something, but there's no year on it, but I've had it forever. Yeah, you can't read it on the front either. But a theorem painting was done with stencils on velvet, and I always thought it had a really cool look. It is said to have started someplace in India, and it was all the rage at the turn of the 18th century in England. So you might have seen some theorem painting style pieces from Sandra Sullivan at Homespun Elegance. But anyway, I think the velvet is a really cool backdrop for this artwork. So I really have always liked that pin. Then I have a needle book that, you know, you think you're going to remember these things, and I might have a card someplace that says who it's from, or it might have been a secret stitcher type gift in one of my stitch groups, but it's a little bee needle book, and it's got the pages, and I really wish I could remember. I want to say that it was somebody in my Medina Needlework Guild offshoot stitch group that met at people's houses, because there were a few talented needleworkers in that group that did a lot of this type of work on wool and quilting, that sort of thing. And so I think it might have been one of them, but I'm so sorry that I don't remember who stitched it. But anyway, I've had this for quite a while. It's actually in a glass box that has a lot of little bee things in it, so I hadn't thought about it in a while. So I came across that. And then also in that same, I don't know which way is up. I guess it doesn't matter. In that same glass box, I had kind of forgotten about this. This is one of those felted balls, and it is really, really sturdy. Somebody did such a great job, and there's all kinds of really interesting fibers, thick fibers woven into this. And then look at the cool button that's on the top. I don't remember if this was a gift or I bought it at a craft show. I'm thinking it was a gift, but it also looks like something I would have purchased. All right, so that's that. And then this is not stitching, but it's bees. This is up 24/7. 12 months of the year in my kitchen. I've never completely taken everything off the hutch and done it for another holiday, but I'm thinking of doing it maybe for Christmas this coming year, but usually it's a bee theme all year. And this is something that I did at a, paint your own pottery place. I thought I had done it with my youngest niece, Caitlin, but the year on the back is 2000. And in July, she would have been 5.5. So I'm pretty sure it was her older sister, Kelsey. I had a conversation with Caitlin earlier. She didn't specifically remember doing it, but they've done a lot of other painted pottery things as a family. So that might have been what she was thinking of. But I took the easy way out because you know me, I'm a little tentative when it comes to a different type of a craft. But they had a way of doing these little beads with little drops of paint. I thought that was fun. I thought I could handle that. And then these two shapes were actually sponges. And I'm like, yes, I can handle that as opposed to painting freehand. So I really liked everything about it. I liked the way it came out. I liked the colors I chose. I liked that I did it with one of my nieces. And so there's not a chip on it because I've never used it and I've never let my husband handle it or put it in the dishwasher or anything. So it's still in perfect shape and I just love it. It's one of my most favorite other crafts that I've ever done, and I've only ever done it once. I've received other gifts from my brother's family where they've, done family gifts, but that's the only one that I ever did myself. Okay, so that was fun. Those were my vintage bee crafts. Okay, on to my stitching, but you know what? I'm just going to start with this because this is the first thing I worked on this past week. I had said that I might think about doing strawberries and bees, and it made sense. I didn't want to decide on one of them. I just pulled out some stitch bags and looked at what was in there, and this was really almost finished. You know how you get something out and you go, why didn't I finish this? Because it was really hard to, work on. So, I got it from Joann's. I couldn't help myself because it was a bee, but it was one of those wood blanks. And there's no name on it. It just says it's from the Simply Spring craft line, whatever year it was. So there's nothing else written on it. But I probably had more than half of it done. And then I had to wind under a lot of tails on the back. And so some of the difficulties with this were that, first of all, it was a less expensive kit than what we have in the needlework industry, so it wasn't as well done. The holes were a little rough, and I've seen other people's tips about how to handle that, but I read those tips after I had started this project, so I didn't think to try to clean out the holes first. It was really rough on the thread. And speaking of the thread, I kept saying, what thread is this? This is the worst thread I've ever worked with. It looked like pearl cotton, but thin like embroidery floss. But it had a really weird twist to it, and it was fuzzy. You could hardly even clip it clean. It was just so fuzzy, and that was before you even started with it. And I kept saying, this can't be DMC. Well, I looked on the back of the little chart, and that's all I'm going to show because it is a kit that was for sale. It lists 3 DMC colors, and I held this floss up to other DMC floss, and I'm like, there's no way. They lied. There's no way, because even DMC's lesser line of thread has a name to it, and this they called DMC. No. I swear it cannot be DMC. It is so horrible. So the colors looked right when I put them next to my floss, but when you put the floss next to each other, it is not the same thing. It's just, so I didn't care for that. Winding it under was really hard, and I don't want YouTube to capture this as the profile pic. I'll just show you real quick. It's pretty neat on the back. The easiest way to do this would have been to always hold the thread underneath and stitch over it, and then hold it and start stitching with the new color over it. but I didn't want navy blue thread under the yellow. I didn't want yellow under the light blue. I wanted to wind the color under the color that was stitched in that spot. So I made it difficult for myself. I also thought it would be hard to cut that shape out of like a sticky felt or fabric or something. So I thought it would be hard to finish the back of it. And I want it to be as neat as possible so I could just hang it from my tabletop tree and be done with it and not care if it rotated every once in a while and showed the backside. I made it hard on myself. Okay, you can only go under like 2 or 3 threads at a time. And then if you're not using a short needle, which I don't use petites, but I surely wished I had a petite needle at that time. So I would highly recommend using a petite needle, at least to wind your threads under. And once you got it under, you couldn't pull it through. Like I would take my fingernail and push the eye of the needle as far as I could. And then I had to use one of these grabbers. So I had to open up a pack because I did not already have these in my stitch bag, but it's these Dritz needle pullers. And there's 3 in a pack, so you could take it apart and put one each in some, difficult projects that you had. Anyway, then in order to grab the needle, you couldn't just put this under the needle because the floss kept getting in the way on the back of the blank, the wood blank. So I started off with an index card. I was gonna film myself doing this. No, it wasn't gonna work. I didn't have the right setup for my camera and it was frustrating and I didn't think it would make a good video, but I briefly thought about doing it. But what I did was I pushed it through. Then when I had enough of the needle pushed through and I was done with however many strands I was going to wind under, I had to somehow figure out how to get this under the needle. So I started using an index card, and even that was too thick, so I used a Post-it note. And I had to like scoot the Post-it note under the tip of the needle and then, finish pushing the needle through so that the needle was on the Post-it note and not on the floss. Then I had to slide this. It was a whole thing. But it's done. It's finished. I had some skinny navy blue ribbon. The other thing that I liked about this is that it was navy instead of black. And I just loved the blue wing. So I thought this would look really interesting on my tree or hanging from a tiered tray or wherever I decide to hang it. So anyway, that's the first thing I worked on. And it was one night of stitching and then, part of another evening of doing all the fussy work on the back. Okay, then the next thing I worked on, I would love to call it a whip because I wanted to start it when it first came out, but it was part of the Festive Fob series from Heartstring Samplery, and I have almost all of them. I'm not really a tea drinker, and I don't think I have the travel one, but I have most of the other ones. And I did start, I think I did 1 out of the spring edition. I have 3 or 4 done from the harvest one. And I feel like I have a few, I can't remember I feel like I have a few. Oh, the patriotic. I have a few from the patriotic. But I never had these done. So it wasn't really a whip. It was a new start, but it was kind of an old plan, that I had always wanted to do this. So I did these 2. So I had this long strip of fabric and I just folded it in half and then found the center of each half so that I could have more choices in finishing it. One of my ideas was, since this is an exact border, I thought I might do it as a 2-sided ornament. I'm not sure. Since my tabletop trees are usually against a wall, you don't really see the back of the ornaments. So maybe I'll do them as 2 separate, but that's what I got done on those 2. I'm still deciding on the colors of this. I changed this from the original. And Beth had a K on the chart. I don't know if that's her maiden name. Her last name is Twist, so that's a T. So she had a K on the stitched model, but in the chart she had a B. And at first I was thinking it's B for B. No, it's probably B for Beth, but I didn't want to put my initial. I really wanted it to be B for B. So that's why I did that. So I'll think about what the flower colors should be. I may or may not use the red that she called for in this. I may use another color from one of these other projects. But this whole series was very interesting because she used a lot of similar colors throughout the series. So I had originally made myself a stitch bag that had all of these in it. She used mostly 36 and 40 linen. So I had all the scraps in there. And so I had like a whole satchel that I could just work on any of them at any time. But for these, I felt the need to change a few of the colors. All right, so I did that. Then I did this, and this she has done on her, well, her finish of this was a strawberry. So this piece, you know, was clearly more than enough for this, but the fact that I was going to do a strawberry and I did it on a different count fabric, so it came out bigger than hers, I wanted to make sure that I had enough to, I have to redraw the template, but I just wanted it, I didn't want to make any mistakes. So I just, whatever, I just did it on this scrap piece. Look at the wings though. I think the back stitching, the long stitching is so cute on the bee. So then I did that whole thing, and then that was the last one that I did. And I did change the colors on this, and I'm using, well, for the last bee too, I'm using 2 shades of gray rather than 2 shades of brown. And I think it's so sweet. This actually has the same border as the first 2, but since it looks different, I was always going to do that as a separate type of finish. All right, so that's all of that. Then I worked on Strawberry Patch. And this is another one of those things where you look at it and you go, why did I put this away? And then I went, oh yeah, because of the red problem. So I even went back and watched the sections of the videos from last year where I showed my progress on this. And I was just so disappointed because I had stitched all the white in the word, where the word patch is. I had stitched all the white first, but then when I put the red in, it still left transfer. So I just wasn't sure how to fix it. If I take it out, I would really, you know, I'd have to do the whole thing over again, and then I would be afraid that some red would still be on there. I'm not starting over, there's too much done. So before I continued stitching, what I did was I took strips of Scotch tape, and I was very, very careful to only get like, you know, the bottom row or those 2 rows. And I put it over very deliberately, patted it down really well with my finger, and then lifted it up. And believe it or not, a lot of the red came up. So I was thinking that it didn't really look like fuzz. It looked like transfer right on the white floss, but some of it was fuzz. Then I did the back. Then I did the front again, always with a fresh piece of tape. And I got enough off that I think I'll be okay. I think when it's all done, you know, I'm just going to get over it. But the only thing I have left to do now, because I finished the wood box, I finished the white flowers, and I added the yellow centers. The only thing left to do are the actual strawberries, and I'm going to wet the floss. I'm going to wet the floss, see how much excess dye comes out, and then dry it and then stitch with that. So I obviously didn't get to that because I haven't done the floss yet. So anyway, that was just a little bit of time spent on that, but I felt like I was headed in the right direction. All right, then I hadn't planned on starting this. I think because I didn't continue working on the strawberry patch like I thought I was, that's what gave me the extra time to work on something new. So I forgot to take this out of the plastic, so let me do that so you can see it better because the pictures are small. But this is Bumblebee Petites from Little House Needleworks. Okay. And she had 4 little designs. I was thinking of doing them on, like, she did it on 32, and I was thinking of doing it on a higher count fabric. These actually are ornaments, but I was thinking of making them even smaller. But I found the perfect fabric in 32 count. It's almost the color that they call for, but it was something I already had in stock, and it was Lugana, which I love. So I decided to do that. And I was going to do 3. I think maybe I was going to leave off the flower and put queen and then the bee and then bee, like as a horizontal picture. But in the end, I decided I wanted to do all 4. I thought about doing them vertical. I thought about doing them this way. And then I thought about where I have my bee pictures in my house. And I thought, you know what, Shelly, it probably would be smart to just do it as a square. This is Dove 32 count Lugana from Zweigart. It's not over dyed, but it's still a really tight stitch, a really tight weave, I should say. And I'm only using 1 strand. And look how good of a coverage it is. So I decided that I wanted it to say queen bee with the queen at the top and the bee. So it says queen bee, but I didn't want it to say queen bee because I felt like those were the 2 heaviest pieces. I spent far too much time. Like I was watching an hour-long drama, and I think I spent the whole first 10 minutes just trying to decide in what order to stitch them in, because originally I was going to leave off the floral. But anyway, I think I'm going to be happy with that. I allowed a 1/2 inch in between each of the squares. I have plenty of fabric because I'm thinking of designing I mean, I might not design it. I might find it on another sampler and then just use it on this, but I'm thinking that it might look nice to have like some kind of filigree border around all 4 of them to make it look like it was intentional to put them on the same piece of fabric. So how does that sound? Okay, so I'm excited to keep working on that. So that was my stitching for the week. And then the only new product we got, let's see. Did I do all that? Yes. Okay, so the only new product we got was from Brenda at With Thy Needle. This is the Coleus and the Pear. I think they're all $12. I should have taken these out of the bag too, but I didn't. This is Grand Old Flag. That will definitely go in mustache. Maybe not from the first shipment, a little bit later since I already have some patriotic to work on. And then Summer's Swan. And again, everything changed about tonight's video. This is not the model I was going to show, but because it's With Thy Needle, I have to show you Bonnie's newly framed version of Autumn Splendor, which came out last year. Because I think it came out last year because she stitched it. She was enamored with it and she stitched it right away. The reason I'm holding it sideways is because this is a new shadow box style frame from East Side Moldings. I think she had to paint the inside and she added the fillet, but it's it's deep and so it stands on its own. And she picked a fabric from her stash, I think. It looks like it might be Legacy or Heritage from Picture This Plus. It's a little different from what they called for, but she thought it looked good with the floss colors. So anyway, that was what I decided to show for a new shop model tonight. All right, I accidentally buried the giveaway from last week. Goes to Susan from Colorado. And Susan, I'm pretty sure I know who you are, but if you, this is the message I left, if you could just remind me of your last name. So I mail it to the right Susan, but I'm pretty sure I know. She's gonna get this Forever in Stitches kit that I offered last week. And what she said was, among other things, the question was to say something about whether you have a craft room or dedicated space. And she said, years ago, my husband built me a craft room that is a dream come true. It's attached on the west side of our home, and it looks like it has always been there. I have an area for quilting, paper crafting, and cross stitch. It's the first place my girls and grandkids go to when they come to visit, and that room is full of laughing, talking, and love. So I just really enjoyed that comment. So she's going to get that. And then for tonight, I've done it before, but I'm going to do it again since she has so many titles in this series. So just go, and I think it's been a while. Might have been in 22 that I did this, but go look at Little House Needleworks website. I'm sure she's got a separate, yeah, I'm sure she has a separate category for the petites. And just look and tell me which petite you would like. You don't have to take the Bumblebee. If you don't want, you could take whatever, whatever she's offering. All right. Okay, I got through everything. I don't think I have to edit. We'll do a quick run through to see whether I made any mistakes. But I think that's it, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.